CII, and he's saying that, listen, the figures as we have currently, it's because of these things that happened in the year 2016 when the NDC was in power.
Well, Biswa, thank you once again. Yes, indeed, I heard somebody saying that corruption is like a pregnant woman. You cannot hide it, whether you like it or not. It will one day show. Yes, indeed, if one of the board members of GII has come out to say that, yes, it is as a result of what happened in the previous administration, that is why we have such a low figure, then that is what he's saying. We cannot begrudge him. We cannot also, but we need to find out more. We are in this country, most of us are not fighting for a particular cause or a party. We are fighting for the complete elimination or eradication or reduction in corrupt practices. I belong to African Parliamentarians Against Corruption Network, and our duty is to make sure that corruption, irrespective of which regime or party that is in power, should be reduced or eliminated. That is why some of us supported the institutions that fight corruption, that they should be given more funding to be able to fight corrupt practices. One of them is the Auditor General Department, another one is the SHRAJ, another one is YOCO. Any institution that has to work with corrupt practices or work against corrupt practices, we should be able to support them and give them logistics to be able to work. And mind you, basically, if the former board member is saying that it is because of what happened in the previous administration. The previous administration have taken steps in those instances. When it came to the brass band, we know what happened. When it came to the Central Pharmaceutical Shop burning, we know what really happened in those instances. So if it is saying yes, it is because of those instances, those issues that has reduced our corruption perception. That's what he's saying, but we need to prove further.
I mean, in these two instances, do you think that as a government we're able to bring finality to the issues?
Well, we were not able to bring finality to the issue, but it's an ongoing process until we've lost the power. The ongoing process is that, yes, brass banding, some people were asked to pay back. Somebody has resigned her job because of that and other issues. And if we as a nation thought that there are other things to be done apart from what has been done, any government is in place, they are supposed to pursue whatever things to be done. And I am not against anyone who has, fraudulently or corruptly done anything against the state. If you have done anything that is untoward, you are supposed to face the full rigors of the law, and nobody should be shielded. I remember during the 31st December celebration in Ho, the former president, John Dramani Mahama, also said the same thing, that whoever is found capable of doing anything wrong, the party will not stand by the person, but the caveat was that we should not go witch-hunting political opponent because you are in power today. If that is it, we will all come to the court and also give them moral support. But let the full the law takes its place. If somebody has done anything that is not good, that is against the state, I think the law should, and we all know that what the person did is against the state. For me, we will not support the person.
I mean, to be fair to Reverend Osei-Wusu, though, he actually goes on to say that considering the collateral damage these scandals had cost the nation, one would have expected that the current NPP government would criticize them to do something about the development, but he thinks nothing has been done or heard from them so far. And this, according to him, is fueling the perception that politicians don't walk their talk. I mean, we've heard this time with that number. It's almost as if you say one thing out of power, and when you're in government, it's difficult to do so.
That's why we are all in this country where we heard all kinds of corrupt practices in the country. I mean, of recent, that's just the past last year, when we have a scandal at BOS. We raised issues concerning the bond, that's a 2 billion bond by the former minister. There are other issues, seat for cash, and a couple of issues that we raised as a minority and as a nation, the representative of the people. All we heard was that the people have been cleared. So if people outside our political space begin to think that politicians say one thing and they do the other thing, they are right in that perception. But let me also put on record that there are credible and decent people in politics, people who also think that politics should not be done because you wanted to make you want to have all the resources to yourself, or get corrupt, or get into things that will make you happy or make you rich, wealthy as a result of your political getting into politics. I think that these are people who do politics. But let us also be said that this government, the current government, came into power because they decided to label the previous government as corrupt government, and therefore
which worked.
That's why they are in power today. So I expect them to begin to crack the whip, not only with their political opponent, but also with their own self. If anybody has been found culpable, they should be able to crack the whip. I'm happy at least the first part of bringing the special prosecutor has been fulfilled in their manifesto, but that does not end it all. Let people begin to see corruption as a way that we should not tolerate in this country. The other day I made a statement in Parliament, and I believe that that statement should be taken seriously. It is not a special prosecutor that will stop corruption. We as a nation must begin to look at our value system and ethical system that we work on in this country. The first thing is that if we have the Right to Information Bill, which we all know it will become a bill or an act that will open up the space in our public discourse, that will allow Biswa, for instance, or anybody who wants to go into the ministry department agencies to find out information about a particular person. If that bill is in place, or we have been able to pass that bill, I believe that most of these issues will be seen and known. Unfortunately, that bill has not been passed after a whole year. So if you have a public prosecutor, a special public prosecutor in place, and you are not able to pass the bill, the special public prosecutor will only go to court, and he has to advance his argument. If the judge thinks that what he said or what they brought is something to go with, the judge will give his judgment. He's not a final arbiter. He's just somebody who will bring an issue up, and the judge will decide whether the culprit is culpable or not. So for me, the RTI, that's the Right to Information Bill, is very important and key in the fight of our fight for corruption.
Is it part of your top priority list in Parliament?
Unfortunately, no. I was thinking that last Parliament that we're not able to pass it. We've done a lot of work on that. I was expecting that the current government, as they came into power in 2017, that will be the first thing they'll bring on board for us to work on. Unfortunately, up to today, there's a second year in government, and we're still not seeing the light of this Right to Information Act.
I know you have played a very key role, in pushing this bill. So, I mean, we will talk a bit more about that. It obviously has everything to do with all our discussions. Indeed, moving on with this particular headliner, and I'm talking still the bus branding scandal that, according to a board member of the GII, the Ghana Integrity Initiative, the Reverend Dr. Kojo Osei Owusu, has caused the low ranking that we saw. And the ranking, we're talking about how that Ghana scored 40 out of 100 in this latest corruption perception index, the lowest since 2012, when the CPI scores became comparable. Indeed, according to the report, the 2017 CPI used 9 out of 13 data sources of independent institutions with high level of credibility to compute the index for Ghana. And the average score of less than 50, which is what Ghana had received for 2017, showed serious perception of corruption in the country. All right, well, we've been joined by the second vice chair outgoing, NPP Eastern Regional Branch, Nana Fredia Oforiatta. Nana, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you. I like that label.
You do?
Yes, I do.
All right.
It actually gladdens my heart.
Nana is very poetic. You know, he's a journalist. He's a seasoned journalist. So
well, I don't know about
I'm not surprised.
I'm more of a media person.
You are, but you have that other side as well. I always get excited when you get to sit with ABA, because you two have a lot
of different story.
All right, you're welcome again. And we're talking, the CPI reports. So now a board member of the GRI is suggesting that the bus branding scandal that happened in 2016 is what caused the low ranking that we saw. And you think it's tenable?
Well, the general context, and I heard the Honourable waxing lyrical about all kinds of interesting points, and I wish these were the points they proffered at the beginning of the debate on special prosecutor and whether we needed it or not and all that, because what he said now is what they should have been saying at the beginning. It was very strong points he was making, and as for the allegations against the NPP, we'll talk about that. On this particular matter, first of all, I think it must be established that all the time when these surveys come out, everybody has an angle to it depending on where they stand. The reality that we must all accept is that surveys are most important because they give you a feel of how the public feels about issues. It gives you a feel for how things are going, the truth about how things are going. Of course, every survey has its nuances, got its issues, detailed problems that you might raise. And there's nothing wrong with that either. After all, that same survey is created by the human beings who will be asking other human beings questions. And the intention behind the survey sometimes will expose itself in the kinds of questions they ask. But the important thing is, typically when you look at a market research survey or something like that, typically any one question is repeated in other ways in that same survey. So eventually you're able to glean out the quote-unquote truth or facts about the matters at hand. So for me, these indicators and what have you are all very important for us, especially if you're a policymaker, if you're a legislator, if you're a political leader, even if you're a societal person, social leader, because you get to understand how people feel about issues. Having said that, the rankings that we found ourselves in had a reason. There had to be a reason. And in this instance, they're telling us or suggesting to us that one of the reasons was this bus branding thing. What is the reality about the bus branding? The details. It was poorly handled. First of all, it abused the system. We were not sure who was authorized to issue the money. We were not sure why it was authorized because of the way it was contracted. When the story broke, government at the time didn't handle themselves well. Eventually, they found in themselves a scapegoat. And then when they found that scapegoat, eventually the scapegoat herself bleated the wrong way by telling us that if you vote for the NPP, I'll go to jail, which means that something went wrong. So all these things, when you pile them up, give a certain image. And it is those images that these surveys reveal. It's not something that's cooked up by the NPP. It is how you handle an issue when it comes. First of all, the issue itself and how you handle it. And this is one of many. Now, the Honourable gladly claimed that we are the ones who we tagged them being corrupt. They tagged themselves. We just endorsed it. Because when we raised those accusations, how many of them did they try to deny? They did nothing. They didn't. You see, and that's the thing about this politics business. When you're in power, if you're not careful, you tend to think you're God. And so let them do what they want. The reality is that if it was not true, what was being told, for which we highlighted, why didn't they say so? In the one or two instances when they tried to, this Kaswa Bridge matter, instead of even dealing with the issue per se, they were attacking Nana Akufo-Addo. Even dealing, when they tried to respond to that matter, they were busy attacking the personality as opposed to dealing with the issue. When you take this Ford matter, they basically threw their right hand, or in this case, I think even their left hand at us when the matter was raised. All these things pile up. So it isn't the NPP that created a story and put it out there. They themselves created the story. We just highlighted it because it's politics. The argument is that we will come into office and we will make sure that this, if it is not removed, it is reduced. And we needed to show it. And we did. They would have done the same. They did that in 2008. People tend to forget those things. They claimed that the Kufuor government had been very corrupt. And yet when it was all said and done, they did nothing about the appointees of Kufuor government because they tried to take them to court. What happened at the end? Nothing. They couldn't indict them. So now, come to today. And today, after a year, they expect heaven on earth. That's fine, because I think that's what we should aspire for. The issue is, has anything been done? Yes. When the special prosecutor bill hadn't gone to Parliament, what happened? Oh, these people, they can't do anything, don't mind them, yabba, yabba, yabba. This was around April, May. Yes, around April, May. Then there was a move also on the bill. And was this, came up with all kinds of things, all kinds of maneuvers. Eventually, we've come to Mr. Martin Amidu, and then, up in arms, why are you bringing him? He's against us. Is it about you? Do you mean well for Ghana? You see, the NDC played up all these things. Eventually, we're here today. The reality is
that's the problem. I mean, it's almost as if we're all sitting and waiting for the. Let me not even restrict to the special prosecutor's office, but for a state prosecutor. I don't see that we're doing enough, to
what kind of to see
to kind of get people to desist from the act.
Yeah, but what do you want to see?
That's what I'm. A lot more action.
Like
what kind of education are we giving to people in the public space, for instance? Because it's almost as if we're just here.
You see, in any system, and I'm not saying this to come away from the issue, but to point that there are actors on different levels. How well does the media carry these issues when they come? Well, sometimes the media itself gets bribed. Sometimes the media itself gets bribed.
I don't know about which media.
So, don't get offensive. It's not about you personally or about your station personally. I said the media. They themselves get bribed into keeping. Me too. You just said to the world that I'm a journalist, even though I'm not. I'm saying that, you see what I'm saying? So, in the scheme of things, and that's the beauty about the way Americans behave. This like the football that they play. When you make a yard, it's as if you're the greatest person on earth. Every inch matters. So we're saying, when we've created a situation where there's a deterrent, like the special prosecutor, and then you make it even more intense by bringing a character in the likes of Mr. Martin Amidu. When you join that with all the other players around, what we need now is to play our part. We should play our part in ensuring that these things don't continue or are reduced heavily. We might not be able to raise 100%, but let's reduce it to 80%. By 80% or 90%, whatever it is that it takes for us to expose these things. I think that, and this is not to say that you are wrong in what you raise. It's just to say that, first of all, let's recognize that we've made progress, and then let's bring on some more approaches to clearing the matter. As far as I'm concerned, the facts about the bus branding and all that are evidence that the NPP did not lie to the Ghanaian people. It is also a marker for the NPP itself to be wary as it proceeds in government. It must be careful itself. We, as a government, must be very careful.
But it's interesting that when the report was put out, these details did not emerge. And to be fair to the NDC, I mean, considering that we saw actions, that were taken to prevent monies from unlawfully being paid, aren't we, unnecessarily blowing this whole bus branding saga?
Are we? Because
we saw actions were taken.
Well, did they? What action? They fired the minister, and that was it.
Well, the minister resigned.
Yeah, she was fired. She was fired. That's not. She was fired. And then what happened to the money?
Yeah,
They
we know
gave them
that some monies were supposed
space.
to have been.
Yeah, I don't even know. I haven't even
happened?
heard the story. I haven't even heard the story whether it was eventually paid or not. But look at this, the amount of time. Was there a police? Was it? Or did they go through a legal process that indicts them, makes them go through the process? Because it isn't just about collecting the money. In that instance, and I think it was in your studios I came to say last week or so that I have a problem with just allowing somebody to just pay up and go. And you remember the issue was raised that, well, it's a legal process and it's permitted. The image that, oh, Mitia Ibijame, so why chop the money, even put it away? The interest alone on a billion CDs is a lot of money for somebody. So all of that, they put the money away. When if trouble comes, pay it. The interest alone is what you can live on. So I'm saying all of that are issues that I think we should be debating. In as much as maybe it's legally permissible and all that, we should build an image, and that's where you were right about the education. We should build an image.
Some kind of a behavioral.
Yes, I don't dispute that at all. I just wanted to
change of our mindset.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I just wanted to position your point that it should, first of all, let's recognize the progress, and then let's bring on some new things. So, for example, therefore, now position it so that people appreciate that when you do this, this is what you go through. You go into jail until the matter is properly negotiated. Something that helps to further deter these actions from happening.
Yeah, basically,
yes,
you see the story. It says that yes, these acts were done in the previous administration, but the clean up by the current administration has not done that. That is why the perception 2017 has dipping lower for the country. That is the issue. The issue is not about whether it's been done or not been done, anything done about it or not. We are seeing that currently, if you wrote on the issue, or one of the issue is about bus branding and other issues, and you came to power, what have you done about it? That is what the question the board member is asking. And so if you are in power today, what have you done about it? I've also mentioned about the special prosecutor. I said the special prosecutor is not a panacea to our corrupt practices. Neither will he be the end of corrupt practices. But there are other things that we need to do. And I mentioned the Right to Information Bill that needs to come in place. We have the Whistleblowers Act that's in place now. Has it found space in our discourse? Are we encouraging people to come out to whistleblow?
We're transferring people who've done so. We discussed the story like that last week. If you really
want to walk the talk, then you must begin to put actions into place. You must begin to do things that people will know really you are here to fight corruption.
I mean, going forward, and I want to put this question out to you as well, how can we make a better mark in the coming years, if you like? What should be the way forward?
Well, I've mentioned that we should be able to push, first of all, the Right to Information Act. Let us work on that too. Let's strengthen our institutions that fight corruption, institutions that work against. The first one is the Auditor General Department. We should encourage them. I hear they may resource. Let's give them more resources to work. The Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice, the should also be resourced well. IOCO should be resourced well, and any other institution that works against corruption or that makes sure that corrupt practices are not encouraged. Let's encourage. Let's resource them and give them all the logistics that they need to fight corruption in the country.
All right. Well, just one. Nana, before I get to you, so A.U. Farouk from Tamale says the GRI report is totally mischievous and mind-boggling. Okay, how can the bus branding scandal cause the low mark in the corruption index? Okay, A.U. Farouk, thank you. You can send yours as well to all our social media platforms. Now we're wrapping up and we're looking at the way forward.
Yeah, on the point about this being reflecting from last year, it still emphasizes the fact that it was up to a year. You needed to prepare. You wanted to legalize certain things, so it was going to take time. A lot of people were up in arms, including the NPP membership itself, were up in arms about the fact that we appeared to be slow in responding. So that's why I said surveys are good, because it was telling us our truth. So that one is not in dispute, but the matter of the branding itself had a problem. Now, on the solutions, I go with the Honorable on all the points he raises, but I in addition insist that, you see, we're not a reading public. We don't read. When the news comes, it comes over the airwaves. They're either watching us or listening to us on radio. That is why the media plays an extra role that, for me, is more striking. And so we need the media in itself. Can you imagine if, on a daily basis, each station, 3 times a day, highlighted something that made people worry about trying to do corrupt things on a daily basis, just for a year? I'm telling you that my experience as a communication person, I believe that we will see real change in our own actions. So that's where, for me, if the media would take that up, we're halfway through. But I think we cannot, it's not everything's not a panacea. Indeed. Whatever you do, there'll still be some tricksters, but it will be so heavily reduced that we all feel better. And we need to we need to explain the benefits of not chopping public money.
Indeed.
You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
When you don't chop public money, you get to pay free SHS and all those things.
I'm in a situation where, yes, so after chopping public money, I'm given, say, 6 years. Yeah. And that's it. I mean,
we should be punitive.
What kind of precedents?
We should be punitive enough in dealing with corrupt practices. I mean, you cannot just chop public money and go scot-free or asked to pay back. If the laws of this land says that after paying back, you must also face the law or do any other thing. It should be done. For me, I'm against anything that is called corruption. Anything that is against, because you see, corruption has a price, and the price are some of the economic woes that we go through, some of the things that we cannot do as a nation. The development index is not as high as we want it because of some of the prices that we are paying as a corrupt people. If we can curb it, if we can stop corrupt prices, the money, the leakages will go into some of these development projects. Not only the Prince Senior High School, but other ones as well. Constructing our roads.
Very well said. I think my guest's point. We're moving on now. It is 7:42. We'll be wrapping up shortly, but I want us to touch on this very important, headline as well. So the public servants, according to the Auditor General, public servants with earnings above 3,700 will declare their assets, or should declare their assets. All public servants whose salaries are above this figure are required by law to declare their assets and liabilities. The Auditor General has said he advised public officials to disabuse their minds that it was only politicians who were enjoined by the law to declare their assets. Let me begin with Nana Fridia.
So, these are the types of things that, when they're being made public, for us to all appreciate and understand, it allows to see a further downward trend in this act of corruption. But the reality is that 3,000 is not a whole lot of money. So that's interesting. But it's the law. And so let's stick with the law as much as possible.
Yeah, considering what we know, I mean, the average person takes
the law, and I think it's important. What we should see, I remember the beginning of this administration's office, the finance ministry held a workshop on how to manage our finances. One of the suggestions that came up is that we need a lot of hotlines so people can make calls and say, look, I walked into this office and Afridia had his drawer open and looked at me and looked into the drawer, which meant I had to put something. If I hadn't put something, we need to have that, and I'm thinking, even the media houses, if you had your lines where people could call in, I'm telling you, that in this country, one of the doctors of society is the media. Yeah. When the people have a problem, the first thing they want to do is call a radio station or a TV station to say, look at what's happened to me. Obviously, you're not the ones who can solve the problem, but you can lead to the solution. So it would be great if, for example, you had a hotline that just allowed people to make reports, give reports on where things are happening. Of course, we need to double investigate to be sure that somebody is not just out there to destroy somebody's character and therefore telling a story. So there must be all kinds of mechanisms. But yes, definitely, this is the way to go. This type of thing is the way to go. And with public servants, it's extra important. But you see, we must also work towards paying them well. They are high-level expertise, skilled people who submit themselves to us. And therefore, they will not necessarily make the profit that if they were in the private sector, they would make. In exchange, let's make their lives comfortable.
Yes, I want to agree with my old-time friend. He's still a friend. We'll talk about that. You know, that we need to pay our public servants very well. That is one thing. The other thing is that, you see, the Auditor General did not just control this from the wind. It's been part of our laws. It's been sitting on the shelf for a very long time, that if you earn over 3,000 plus 7, you should be paying, you should declare your asset. But often than not, it is only politicians. When you come to Parliament for the first time, or you are made a minister, or you're given public office holder, they are the people who we know should declare their asset. But what about those who, above assistant directors in the ministry, department, agencies? He also said something. He also suggested not only those who are within the bracket, but he suggested that those who, in their day-to-day activities, deal with huge sums of money, even if you are a civil servant and you are a junior officer, but you handle large sums of money, you should also be made to declare your asset. It is good. It will help, in curbing corruption. I think it boils down to the same corrupt thing that we're talking about.
Indeed.
I attended a program in India, and one of the things that I've noticed about fighting corruption is a civil society organization that corrupt, thing very seriously. And there is this, you can Google, called I Pay a Bribe. It's an app in India, and if anybody, you go to any institution and somebody, like Nana said, you opens a drawer, you quickly go to that number, a hotline, or even send a message to that online platform that I pay a bribe here, and then you give all the indication. So that civil society organization takes it up and follow through. If any civil society organization can take it up and begin to work with it as we have in India. We are not reinventing the wheel. Somebody is doing it, we can also do it. It will reduce corrupt practices in this country. Ghanaians, we hear a lot, especially if 2-3 people have been exposed. Yes, Nana has mentioned that let's begin to speak about, let the media begin to devote enough time to this corrupt practice. So you see that people begin to run away and stop being corrupt. But let's be the civil servant.
Don't be the policeman or so, and you say, I know the law. They stop bothering,
Indeed.
Yeah. And
yes.
so
I don't know exactly.
But all of this is hashtag the Akufo Addo effect.
Listen, let's come back to the Attorney General. Let's come back to the Attorney General. And for me, we know that he said a number of things. This particular call, though we know is grounded in law, you see can I describe him as, say, the most popular public servant in Ghana today? And I'm thinking that all of his actions and visions for the space within which he works, realistic? Are they those ones that you think we can achieve?
You have to aspire. You have to aspire. And so I agree with you that his actions are very exciting. You have to aspire. And if we don't put out the standards so people understand it, this law that we just discussed, I never knew. I don't know if you knew, but obviously the Honorable knew. I never knew. And I wonder how many of the people listening to us knew. So now immediately they start wondering, so Asemesi, where did you get this thing from? Because you're supposed to declare. Did you declare? It's all important. So his actions, I think, are important. I think that it's important that he steps up even more. Maybe I should go and find a communication contract there to help him out with how he deals with those issues. But the public needs to know. And you see, I don't know whether you've observed this, but our people, the Ghanaian people, when they know what the law is, you lie. When they know it, you lie. They'll either go left of it or right of it. It is very, very rare that when a Ghanaian knows the law, they'll stay in the middle. Unless the rest of the public is against them, then they'll pretend they don't know and they'll keep quiet. But when they know the law, so it's either they go very bad or they're very good. Yeah. So let's put it out there. Let's let people appreciate that we have laws and that they can be enforced. So just let us know who has done what, and then let's follow through. This app that the Honorable, that's exciting. Can you imagine what, at the other 2 days ago, I was out in the eastern region. Some policewoman is dead in the middle of the road. And this woman walks up to her, and it is obvious. So now we shouted, people in the vehicle, and I shouted, "Hey, Yahoo!" Then they're like, but she took it anyway. Now, can you imagine if we had this app? We could immediately say, at this particular time, there's a policewoman standing at this particular place, and this is what is going on. We need to be able to do those things.
I think
the police have something like that already, but it's not the same level.
You could push this, Honorable.
No, but it's a civil society thing.
It's a civil society thing. I mentioned that we have a lot of civil society organizations that are into development space, but they are not into social space as we speak now. We need more of institutions like GII and other CDDs, and Nana can even start now that he's unemployed.
I have one, but it's not
now that he's unemployed, his party is in power, but he has not been employed. Maybe we should
because
Nana
is a farmer. He's a chief. He's everything.
So we should start a new civil society organization that will, go to unearth some of these things. Look, if you go to India today and you give a bribe, then it's easy for somebody to know that this person has given a bribe somewhere. Why can't we also develop the same thing here? So yes, the Auditor General is doing very well, but he needs support. He needs some institution to support him, and that can only be done by civil society organization like the law. That civil society organization can take the law and educate people that this is it. On their platform, this is what happens. If you any employee being a public servant who earns so much salary, even the son or the daughter or the children can go and say, my daddy earns so much, but he has not declared his asset. That is all we are talking about.
Oh, you're encouraging family disputes.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that let people begin to take their law. The people should be assertive. People should be bold to come out to say the right thing.
Indeed. And on the issue of education as well, whose responsibility is it?
On the issue of education, it's all of us, including the NCCE.
I mean, like we're doing, definitely we're educating.
Of course, you are doing
I'm looking at more intensified awareness creation, getting people to know exactly what the laws are and exactly what they're saying.
Yes, I'm selling it to civil society. And Nana, from here, we can talk.
I'm saying that
we'll stay on the beats. We'll stay on the beats. So we'll definitely get back to you. There's a question though. The Auditor General once again wanted to be given powers to be able to audit the budgets before it's approved. I don't know what you make of this proposal.
What does that mean?
But I mean, I'm sure these are matters that we could probably interrogate in the coming days. Stick with us. We have more coming up on the show. Plus, that conversation on sexual harassment in the workplace. We want to hear from you. Don't go away.
What's my name?